we're off. We're off. Welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends.
Bit excited.
I don't know where I got that from. Where did I get that from? Now, I'm sure that's off an album, you know. I think it is. I think it's the beginning of a song. I should put that down and I'll find out. We are, of course, talking about Wycombe Wanderers.
Whoopie-doo.
Depressing. We will be talking about, we'll get to the managers bit afterwards. We'll talk about a few other things to do with loans. We're going to talk about loans, and that will actually fit in the Wycombe Wanderers bit, because amazingly enough, loaning players out from the Premier League makes a big difference to the lower leagues. And we're going to talk also about the rise and the fall of three-man defences, and that also applies to Wycombe Wanderers, even looking at yesterday's lineup and how Wycombe's lineup yesterday wasn't a three-man as such. It did change at one point in the game. I don't know whether people noticed, but yeah, so those two things we will it will come into discussion about Wycombe more like at the end of. We've also got a bit of music that I'll play a bit later during the background and explain who they are. Right, Kieran, let's start with Wycombe Wanderers. Did you see the highlights? We call them the highlights. My goodness. Have you ever seen such drab highlights in your life?
More like the traffic lights, weren't they? They were pretty horrendous. You couldn't really tell what happened in the game whatsoever from them. Not that you're supposed to. You're supposed to only see the key moments, but the key moments weren't very key.
Well, the one key moment that I could actually see was goalkeeper fluffed it. Is there any goalkeepers out there, please?
I mean, I don't know whether David, as we call him, watches this, but I know I've definitely mentioned in the past about how there's some that you're like, you should do better than that. It's not a complete mistake.
No, two of the goals against Morecambe, you can actually put it round his neck. We think last week, and he is costing us. He is costing us now.
Yeah, it was like, if we're gonna go over like goalkeeper technique, it was kind of like, if the ball hits his hand is stretched out here, then it's fine, because obviously the force is going to like push his hand back and he may well spit it. It wasn't like that though. It was into his midriff, where his whole body is. He should be able to just hold that, and it shouldn't be very difficult.
It wasn't hit hard, and I shouted from the terrace, just hold on to it. And to be honest, he at least had that amount of time from the ball being kicked to it getting to him. And I'd actually got that sentence out before he even got to him. Yeah, and of course, guess what? He just put it straight back in front of the guy's feet to kick back in the net.
Mm-hmm.
What is...
Yeah, it was frustrating more as well, because there was like 2 or 3 Wycombe players around him who kind of highlights is just like that they could have well got there if they'd been a bit more focused.
I don't think so.
It was difficult to tell, but I think the one was Tafazoli, who was quite near it. But I don't know whether like the speed of the ball, like the spin of the ball,
he's facing the wrong way for when the ball comes out. I think they were round the goalkeeper, protecting a player running in before it reaches the goalkeeper. I think they knew where it was going. They came in to protect the ball from not reaching the goalkeeper. They made sure it did, and they weren't expecting it to come bouncing back out.
No.
And so I don't think it was for them to kick the ball away. I think it was for Stockdale to hang on to the ball, and he can't do that. I would be fascinated to know how goalkeeper number 2 plays. We know how important it is to have a good goalkeeper. And I'm afraid Stockdale, I think, isn't good enough. Okay. I think I'm going to make this statement. Okay. I don't think Stockdale is not good enough.
I
When
mean,
a goalkeeper is losing games for you like that on such a regular basis, and we're making the same comment game in, game out, how many goals has he cost us? No, it's enough.
I think in saying it's game in and game out, I think it's been more regular recently. I don't think we were saying it too much at the start of the season, but recently it certainly has been. It is a weird one because I don't know what your opinion was way back when, but when Allsop got replaced by Stockdale, it's kind of like, well, Allsop doesn't do that much wrong. I don't know why you've done that. And it's difficult to tell now whether Allsop would be better than Stockdale. We haven't seen Allsop play for goodness knows how long. But you do get the impression that Stockdale's just like, he'd get found out in the Championship for certain. And he's getting found out definitely recently. But I mean, I don't think we're at the point where we can replace our goalkeeper if that is what we so chose to do. It's so near to the end of the transfer window, and you don't get that many goalkeepers on loan in the middle of the season.
So, what's goalkeeper B like?
Can you even tell me his name?
No, that's the trouble. I mean, is he any good?
Just going to go and find
You're
his
going to
name.
look it up. While you look it up, I will also, I mean, obviously, you can't just point a finger and say Stockdale lost us the game, but I will, because I think he lost us the game. Wycombe was shocking. Milton Keynes was shocking. Nobody was going to score another goal. And in fact, nobody should have scored any goals. That should have finished 0-0. We would have got a point, and more importantly, Milton Keynes wouldn't have got 3. And I think that's the problem. It was a 6-pointer, and that was what it's cost Wycombe. It's as good as cost us 6 points that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's put us back in and amongst 6th and 7th, hasn't it? And it was looking very pretty when we were in first, just last week, wasn't it?
If we picked up a point at against Morecambe at Morecambe for the 2 that he copped up there, and picked up a point here where Milton Keynes wouldn't have got 3, we'd have 2 more points, and Morecambe would have 3 less points, and that would make an awful big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what's the name of the other goalkeeper?
Prisbeck.
Yeah.
Who I think we may have seen a couple of times in the we wouldn't have seen them, but in like your Johnston Paint Trophy and all that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't think he's going to be too comparable to Stockdale, unfortunately.
Well,
if we've never even heard of the bloke.
Well, so we're going to have to put up with what we got for now then. But I think it's a definite change. The rest of the game, okay, let's go on the rest of the game. Well, as everybody can see through the highlights, there wasn't much. I have to say I was bored out of my trolley. It was one of the most boring games I've watched, the most drag of a game that I've seen for ages. Wycombe, I can't believe Wycombe could play any worse. That was shocking. And I'm going to sort of take it apart, that game, and look at possibly why. If we start in the team, have you got the team up of who played?
I did, and I just got rid of it. 1 second.
Okay, if we look at what we've got in there.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so if we start at the front, I think could be the and then we'll get because the front
work our way back.
Yeah, the front is the easiest bit. Okay, I heard people talking on the way out of the ground about should have played Akinfenwa from the beginning. Okay, can I just say, if he was 30, I would have played Akinfenwa from the beginning. Akinfenwa is not 30. Akinfenwa cannot play from the beginning. Really, he probably isn't fit enough to play from the beginning, and I'm not convinced even when he came on. But there was a change when he came on. They changed the system. It was okay. He had more balls to jump for than when Hanlon was on there on his own, but that's because the system changed, and I will get to that. And I'm going to keep saying as we go through this, and I will get to that. Okay, because we're going to deal with each player first, and then I'll talk about the system change after he changed the players and what didn't work in the system that he played. Now, Hanlon was up front on his own. The system Wycombe played was a 3-4-2-1. Up front, Hanlon. Hanlon has never played particularly well when he's the front man on his own up there. We've missed all the balls at his feet, the darting fast, the speed that he's got, etc. He didn't get the opportunity for any of that. And the reason was behind him was McCleary and Mehmeti, and they played the ball out quite often from Grimmer. The ball was going to Grimmer, and the ball was then being played through McCleary and Mehmeti, and Hanlon was too far up to be able to do any running. And so it was all so tightly packed, nothing was happening. Abita, I'm afraid, doesn't pull it off for me. Grimmer, I thought, had an excellent game. Again, I mean, I've put him down before, but he plays his role in this 4 in front of the 3, I thought, very well. Wheeler, I like Wheeler. I think he's a reasonable player. When he plays up in that behind the striker. But here, he'd taken what's its place, who's still injured.
Gape.
No,
Scowen.
He'd taken Scowen's job, and I'm afraid Wheeler isn't a defending midfielder. It's not. He's not very good at it, is he? Or don't you know? Well, I could see he wasn't.
I feel like if he is in that position, he's a bit of a bystander during the game. It's not that he's bad; he just doesn't do a lot.
No, I was actually, the word I'd written down was Wheeler headless chicken, because I felt he really was. You see him running all over the place, and he wasn't quite sure where he was going. And I don't think that's his fault. I'm not blaming him. I'm saying he played out of position. He was taking somebody's place who we couldn't fill. And so he played Wheeler, because who else is he going to put in there?
He could have played. No, you're right. No one. There wasn't anyone. Really
There's nobody. There was nobody around, and I'm presuming, therefore, McCarthy wasn't on the bench, because I presume McCarthy isn't around to play.
McCarthy is on the bench, but he's not a centre mid.
No. I wonder whether he might have done a better. Oh yes, he was. I wonder whether he might have done a better job. I'm not sure. Never seen him play that position, and so you don't know. Okay, then we have Tafazoli in the middle. So you've got Tafazoli, Stewart, and Jacobson at the back. Yeah, okay, right. McCleary and Mehmeti is where we're going. So Hanlon, I think, it did not suit him playing up front on his own, because he never could run onto the ball because it was coming at him through McCleary and Mehmeti almost sideways every time. And so it just wasn't happening for him to go for it. He never could use his speed to go for the ball because it was always the five-yard kick toward him. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Good. Because sometimes I wonder whether I'm just sort of Thompson.
Rambling
I thought,
on.
yeah, Thompson did all right. I watched him after the things I've said before, and I thought he played okay. Okay, but he had too much to do in there. Jacobson didn't see him do very much because of the way the lineup worked. So we were playing three at the back. Three at the back did fine. Stockdale cocked it up. Grimmer did fine. Wheeler, headless chicken. Thompson was okay. Abita does lots of bits, darting runs, didn't really achieve much. McCleary, I don't think, had a particularly great game. Mehmeti, I don't think, had a particularly great game. And Hanlon, therefore, was completely no feed. Nothing for him to do because everything came at him from 5 yards away, nothing to run onto. And the ball with Mehmeti, McCleary and Hanlon was played around the 18-yard box, backwards, forwards, lost it. There was nothing, no space to go for.
I think the slightly worrying thing is that if you do look at our lineup, and if you'd asked us at the start of the season what our best lineup is, it's not a horrendously far away recreation of that. You've got Vokes up front, and you'd have Scown in the middle instead of Wheeler. But then, other than that, it is our supposed best team. And if it's not working really at all to the effect it should do, then I think we should be slightly worried. Well, even if you do have Hannon and Wheeler in there, but it shouldn't make that much of a difference.
Right. Well, if you want to be a great team, I'll come back to that lineup, and just mention about MK Dons. They played it really well, got their goal, and they were given how many yellow cards?
6.
Do you know what? 5 of them were for wasting time.
Oh, really?
And cheating.
Okay. For a while.
It's only the last yellow card. The last one was for a bad tackle.
Mm.
They started straight off with the first yellow card from holding on to the ball when it was a Wycombe free kick and wouldn't give the ball back, but kicking the ball away and that sort of thing. And there was only one they got for a bad tackle.
5 for wasting time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, evidently the ref was having none of it by the time it started.
He started straight off by booking them straight away.
Fair enough.
And I have to say, their guy, Twine, who scored the goal, he's their top goal scorer by miles, isn't he? Is it Twine or Parrott?
Yeah.
No, it's Twine, isn't it? Who scored their goal, who scores all of their goals. Am I allowed to say this? What a cheating little arse. What a horrible...
say that.
I'm not allowed to say that.
No, you are.
Oh, right.
You can say whatever you want on YouTube, don't worry.
Okay. What a horrible little boy. If he was you on a Sunday morning, I would have been embarrassed. He might score lots of goals, but the crowd was singing about him crying. I think he was, actually. I think he's lying, rolling around the... Oh, he was a horrible little... No, please don't play ever for Wycombe. I don't care how many goals you're scored. You're an embarrassment. I think he was horrible. All
Let's hope
right.
he watches.
Yeah. Horrible little boy. I would no, thank you. He's 22 and he behaves like he's 4. He's horrible. Interesting, I think, that they gave the star award to the goalkeeper. I can't remember him really doing very much, I have to be honest. And looking at the highlights, nor can you. No, I don't know why he got. I don't know why he. Well, the only reason was because he didn't make any mistakes, unlike everybody else on the football pitch, because he never had to touch the ball.
The goalkeeper made a mistake.
Coming. Their goalkeeper.
Oh, I see. You gave it to their goalkeeper. I see.
Yeah. The best player on the pitch on here, the guy with the most points, is their goalkeeper, which is baffling. Because, well, only that he was the one that wasn't involved in the game. So I presume that's why he got all the points, because everybody else were crap. And that does include their team. I thought if they hadn't got that, I was going to say lucky goal. It's not a lucky goal at all. If they hadn't got that, then, well, it was going to be 0-0 all the way. Now, I can see on here why they give out the yellow cards. All right, let me just read out what the yellow cards were for. Let's see if they did actually say that they were for the same thing. Yellow card. Well, Jacobson was shown. Scott Twine is shown a yellow card. It doesn't say what for. It's because they had a squabble. They don't actually tell you. All right. There's no point telling you that then. So that's where I'd leave the game. Milton Keynes, Wycombe Wanderers. Either of you go up, you're coming straight back down.
I will also say that your fans are mongs as well.
Yeah, we will come to that. Okay. What else happened during the game? And then look at Division 1. What else happened? Baffling. The Milton Keynes fans, I think, they were singing something about Akinfenwa, and I don't think it was because he was black. I think there was a word that fitted nicely in with the song about being gay, if I'm right.
Let's have a quick look on Twitter, because that normally tells all.
You look at that, and it was when he came out of the dugout and run at their end, they started singing away, and suddenly there was really
he was called a sex offender.
Right. Okay. Any particular reason they might have done that?
I can't imagine there would have been.
I think it's simply because it fitted in with the song. And then the strange thing was that it came over the tannoy, please don't sing, that's offensive. So, of course, they started singing it even louder. The game was stopped. And at the Wycombe end, they started singing that Milton Keynes fans were beginning with W with an N and a K in it with an R. Now, which, I mean, isn't that offensive as well?
I think that word gets thrown around a lot more and is widely deemed as just it's like calling someone an idiot or a twat.
Is it? It doesn't seem that.
It's not by all means, it's not the nicest word whatsoever. But
because it just strikes me, we need a rule book, don't we? I mean, we talked about last week about some guy being thrown out of Manchester United match for saying a goalkeeper was short, and here we have Akinfenwa, it fitted in, even though everybody knows he isn't. And at the other end, we're all singing that they are W's. Well, at which point is okay and what isn't? And the language used against the linesman at one point was pretty offensive. I would say it was offensive for the linesman. I don't think he was overly amused with the language. I mean, where's the rule book? Can you have a rule book on you're allowed to? I mean, we need a songbook that you can sing these rude songs and not these rude songs.
But is it even a thing to do with a rule book? Is it not the law? Like, surely you're not allowed to do that under the law, are you?
But the law at football has also it's always
the law at football has always been
had
different.
its own rules, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, well, in the last year, since crowds going back, seems to have upped its, we're not going to allow this anymore. We're not going to allow this anymore, which is fine. I mean, at one point, the newspaper, The Sun, started not printing young girls with their boobs out. At some point, one day it was okay, the next day it wasn't. Okay. At some point, somebody drew a line. Now, obviously, I want to say that obviously I agree that it shouldn't be on page 3. It should be on page. No, it shouldn't be in there at all. Of course, it shouldn't be in there at all. I mean, standards have changed and things do change. Morals change. But somebody is going to have to write the rules so that people know what they can and can't do.
I think you're probably somewhat right in saying that, but then being able to spread that message, and also won't it ignite people to not do it, it even?
I mean, if you stop the game for that, they stopped, the referee blew his whistle and pulled the players off to the side of the pitch. They waited a couple of minutes, on they came yet again, and they started singing it again. But he never took them off the pitch again. We never would have got through the game. No. So what are they going to do? Is it okay? Isn't it okay? If it's not okay, what you going to do about it?
It depends who's in charge of, like, who has to sort that sort of thing out. It should be, I think, for the message to come across in a decent sort of way, it probably should be the police. Because if, like, the FA or the Premier League do it and start upsetting certain groups of fans so much that they don't go to the games anymore, annoyingly, the FA and the Premier League are going to be thinking about money and how much money they're going to be receiving. And if they're annoying people so much that they're not going to go, then because they're not allowed to express what their feelings or their songs or whatever, then they're going to be thinking, oh, we're going to lose some money. We'll let them do it, but we'll say it's wrong.
And what about the Milton Keynes fans? That they sang it last week and it was okay, and they sang it this week and the players were pulled off the pitch.
Well, it's because the player actually complained. But it shouldn't require a player to complain for it to
there should be
matter,
rules.
should it?
People need to know what you can and can't do, and they need to know the consequences. And if the consequences would be Mr. Policeman goes into that crowd, takes photos. I mean, they got cameras everywhere and says he was singing it. He was saying they're going to be banned from going to all football for the rest of their life. People wouldn't sing it if they know that in advance. You can't let them sing it and then make the rule.
Yeah, I mean, not the two are they may be comparable, I don't know. But you had the kids who ran on the pitch a couple of weeks back, didn't you? I'm not sure what he actually did.
He ran onto the pitch and they checked whether he was a Wycombe Wanderers supporter or not. They found out he'd never been to a game, so they banned him for life. Had he come to a lot of games, my guess is they would have banned him for a week.
Yeah. And if you're telling me that this kid who ran onto the pitch, which really isn't that bad compared to what the MK Dons fans are saying, and they're not getting a thing, they're getting 5 minutes of their time wasted for the ref to bring
Can
the
you
players
take
off the pitch. Sorry, they're taking the players off the pitch for 5 minutes and wasting their time, as opposed to being banned for whether it's for a month, 2 months. That otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what the sort of sanctions would be, but that's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It was crazy. I think that it was stupid. I don't know what's stupid. I just think they need to sort this out, because as it stands, you don't know what you can do and what you can't do. And the rules in football, it seems to me they ain't got a clue what they're doing, as per normal with most things. They like to be seen as doing the right thing, when in fact, they're not. Does it make a difference to money? And so I think that sums up Wycombe. Like I say, we will come to the other stuff about loans and three at the back. That will apply to Wycombe as well. But just to look at League One, this is why I think there is going to be a problem with teams going up. There were a couple that really stood out. Well, a few of them more than one or two stood out. Bolton 6, Sunderland 0. Oh, how fascinating. Are Sunderland good enough to go up?
I mean, all teams have off days, don't they? But it's a pretty big off day.
It's a pretty big off day, that one. Amazingly enough, the official highlights, they fitted it in a 2-minute spell like they did with Wycombe's. I've got a sneaking suspicion it's a damn sight more exciting than the 2-minute Wycombe highlights. I didn't watch Quest last night, which is a bit of a shame, really. Started scoring straight away, 19 minutes in. 2-0 by half time, and that came as a bit of a shock. And then, of course, I mean, what the flip happened?
I mean, looking at it, it's a little bit difficult, but it's 4-0 by the 59th minute, and 2 of the goals are conceded in the 85th and the 88th, and you're assuming that Sunderland literally have given up by this point, and to be honest, can't really blame them. I know they get paid goodness knows how amounts of money, but
you're not going to be too happy, are you?
You're not going to be like, oh, we can get back into this, lads, with 5 minutes left and we're 4-0 down. You're not going to do that. So it's probably not as bad as it looks, but it's still pretty horrendous.
Well, that's the third game on the trot. Bolton have won, whereas Sunderland are definitely up and down like a yo-yo. Sunderland's previous 5 games, they won 5-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. They drew the 3-3 with Wycombe. Lincoln, they lost 3-1. Then they drew 1-1 with Accrington. And then they beat Portsmouth 1-0. And now they lose 6-0. I mean, they are having a very, very odd season, aren't they? I mean, what the flip is going on? Who knows? I mean, they've got 54 points out of 29 games. Rotherham at the top and Wigan behind them. I mean, we keep changing our minds every week what's happening, and that's because none of these teams I mean, we watch Premier League football. You know what Liverpool are going to do. You know what style of football they play, and you know how they might change the system. Not Liverpool are a bad choice because Liverpool only ever play one way. And then you pick a team like Tottenham who have 2 types of game, but you know what you're going to get with Tottenham. Even if you don't know if they're going to win or lose, you know what they're going to put on the football pitch and what you're expected to get, from Watford, and so on. In this, Sunderland, MK Dons, Wycombe, Oxford, Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, We don't have a clue. Is this what makes First Division football different? Because actually,
no one's consistent.
Nobody is consistent.
I mean, trying to think if it's more difficult for teams to be. Of course, it's more difficult for teams down here to be consistent because the team itself chops and changes every season because you have people leave and people come in, and the contracts aren't as long in that sense as well. And then they have more games because of the season just generally is longer. They have 8 more games in the Premier League. They have your stupid Johnston Paint energy drink more paint cups, and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, does it make it more exciting? I guess, as long as you're not supporting the team who ends up not getting into the playoffs, because then you're just like, well, we've just wasted a lot of energy on that, haven't we?
I mean, so Plymouth won. I mean, Oxford score. So 7-2. We beat Oxford.
4 penalties.
We beat Oxford. Where was the team that beat Oxford? You see, and why did that team who beat them 7-2 not play against Wycombe? I think that is quite baffling, and that's a problem. And apart from Rotherham and Wigan, I think good luck. I think whether Wycombe get into those playoffs, I do not know, is the honest truth.
I'd be flipping disappointed if we didn't, but the last 2 performances, it's not looking very good, is it?
No, it's not. At the bottom, well, Doncaster went in front in their game, but that isn't that a team at the bottom. I mean, they've had it. I mean, Doncaster and Gillingham, 19 points each out of 28 games. I mean, that is shocking. They're down.
Yeah.
No, there's no question of that. They're down. They might as well pack their bags now. We'll see you. Well, even if we stay in this league, sorry, Gillingham and Doncaster, you're gone. Crewe probably. Well, Morecambe, Wimbledon, Fleetwood, Lincoln, Cheltenham, Shrewsbury, Charlton. Well, who knows? I mean, that fight at the bottom for those 2 places goes all the way up halfway. And then the fight to get in the playoffs could go all the way up from Ipswich in 9th, all the way up. And Ipswich, what is happening with Ipswich? Up and down like a yo-yo. 1 week I'm saying, they're on their way. And then the next game they lose. And you're thinking, what happened there? I mean, Ipswich, they won 2 games on the trot a couple of games ago, and they actually changed the front 3. They won 1 game and changed the front 3, put another 3 players on and won that game. You think they got 6 decent strikers and then lose. Who knows? What a strange football league. The managers, who's to blame? The managers? What are the managers supposed to do? Ainsworth, I would say, is probably pulling his hair out.
Well, yeah, we are pulling our hair out, aren't we?
And I mean, what?
You've got a lot to pull.
Anyway, not a lot more we can say about that, except the next game I go to, please be better than that one I just went to. Struth. That was shocking. Okay. Now we're going to discuss the rise and fall. No. We're going to have a little bit of, I don't know how long you've been going already.
We've been going since 2:45, so 50 minutes. We've been talking about Wycombe for 15 minutes. I mean, this is why most people watch this anyway. It's the Wycombe bit, so.
Okay. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. Because I've just gone on something else for a minute. Brendan Rodgers just to say he's a bright lad. And as he once said, the Merseyside derby games are unique in the city. John Terry, the manager, could not even talk to us at the interval. He said we were bad. Terry Venables said, apart from their goals, Norway haven't scored. And the radio commentator said, Roy Keane going to Celtic would be a case of out of the goldfish bowl into the fire.
I don't think Roy Keane would have ever been in the goldfish bowl. I can show you that.
I've got to finish with a goalkeeper comment, simply because of what we've been talking about with goalkeepers. Joe Hart. Oh, do we all remember how you can fall from grace? Joe Hart will not give up even if we're 12 points behind with one game left.
That was the point where the managers were like, oh, I'm not sure Joe's the right man for that.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And the other bit is, of course, where are all these managers and where are they going? And we've, of course, lost, 2 since the last programme. One was Claudio Ranieri. When did he go?
Ranieri.
He went last Sunday evening, was it, or Monday morning?
It might have been like Monday or Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah.
Not exactly a shock, though, was it?
No. He was at this great team for 3 months, 20 days. He played 14 games he was given, and his win rate was 14%.
But you know the 2 games he won, though, don't you? One of them was beating Man United 4-1 to get Ollie sacked.
Oh, right.
And the other one, the only other one was beating Everton 5-2 away. So the 2 wins he got were flipping, memorable. But it was just every other game that really wasn't very memorable.
And here's the one that's a bit of a shocker, really. This is where I think it's wrong. Can you look up Hull in their division?
What, as in where they are in the Championship?
Yeah. Okay, because the Hull manager got sacked, on the 25th. He was there for 2 years and 7 months. He was in charge for 136 games. His win rate was 39%, which actually is pretty good. Now,
they are 19th.
They're 19th, which is okay. In that 2 years, 7 months, he got them up twice. Twice they were promoted. He's 9 points. Is it 9 points above relegation?
12.
12 points above relegation. They were 9 when he got sacked. What happened was they got bought, and a new owner came in, doesn't like him, so sacked him. But you're sacking a successful manager. I mean, how many decent managers? No, that's not fair, not decent, but successful with what they've got. Managers are out there. Surely you're safe. He's doing all right. He's got you promoted twice in 2.5 years. I think that was a bit cruel, but it does mean there's a decent manager out there for any Championship teams looking at wanting to get rid of somebody.
Well, I'd say the even weirder thing is that they've won their last 3 games.
Yeah.
And they're not, and the Blackburn and Bournemouth included in that, and they're doing flipping decently in the Championship. So,
yeah,
bit strange.
I think any team like Reading or whatever are having a bit of a tough time of it. There's a manager out there worth buying. I tell you, yeah. So anybody in Championship Division 1, watch it Ainsworth if things keep going downhill, mate. No, I don't mean that. Very quickly then, the rise and fall of 3-man defence. I will make this really quick, other than all that I've written. But basically, what happened was Antonio Conte and Thomas Tuchel came in, and it was them that brought it with them from Italy. They brought the three-man defence from Italy. Nobody used it. 2016-17 was first manager in 50 years to win the English League title with a back three. Then 4 years later, Tuchel used the same system at the same club to win the European Cup for the first for 20 years. So it wasn't here. Those two managers brought it in. And generally, it's Chelsea that sort of still use it, still play with it. But when Chelsea played Spurs, was that last week? It was only last weekend. Was it the weekend before? Can't remember. They both, Chelsea lined up with a 4-3-3 and Spurs with a 4-4-2. And so the two clubs that actually would be playing with the three at the back played four. And there was only one team out of the 20 Premier League teams that lined up with a back three, and that was Brentford. So what's happened? It's done this. We're on the way out of the back three in the Premier League. And what's happened was it supplied Chelsea with their success. It worked for Chelsea, got the right players. And then you had the copycats of Sunderland. Eddie Howe used it, Ranieri used it, and Spurs used it. And a lot of teams started to use this, and it actually dropped down into lower league football. And the reason for this, in my opinion, was what happened. This is my opinion, because Wycombe have used that back three. Look at our lineup on Saturday. We started with a sort of back three, didn't we, Kieran? You have a look.
Tafazoli, Jacobson, and Stewart.
And then what happened was we substituted Jacobson and he brought on Vokes. So from then on, he changed it to a 4-4-2 because the three at the back wasn't working. Once he brought on Vokes, you had the two at the front, and Hanlon and Vokes could play off of each other. Wycombe started to get going. They weren't great, but I think that's because the first half they were so bad they couldn't actually get it together. So everybody was wondering, you could see the sort of, why are you taking Jacobson off? He's all right. What are you doing? He wasn't taking Jacobson off. He was changing the system from three at the back to four at the back. The teams that tend to use three at the back tend to be the teams trying to survive. They tend to be your teams at the bottom of leagues. Chelsea are one of the few that have used it to win and be top of a league and to win trophies. Normally, it was Sunderland. It was Eddie Howe with Bournemouth. It was Ranieri. Actually, he used it with Leicester to win the league, but that was one of the few. It tends to be, if you use a three at the back, you would use either a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. It can be a real great attacking team, but your two wingers in the five of the midfield have to be brilliant. You have to have the two perfect players. Who have Chelsea got?
What, as the wing backs?
Yeah, Chilwell,
James.
Yeah, and they're both out at the moment, which those two players make the difference. Two players. And so that with those two players missing, Chelsea did not play with 3 at the back. That's the difference. It wasn't having 11 players on the football pitch. It was having the perfect 2 players, which meant you can change the system. Now, look at what Wycombe did when they started that game playing 3 at the back. Who had they got to use to play 3 at the back? Grimmer and Obita are their 2 wing backs.
Yeah, what are you asking me if they're any good?
How good can Wycombe play using those 2 as the most important 2 players on a football pitch?
I don't think we bought them with the intention of playing them in a back 3. Hence, probably not fantastic in that position compared to what they might need to be.
That's why a 3 at the back for Wycombe will not work, because the 2 most important players on that football pitch for Wycombe playing that system is Grimmer and Obita. Where do they lack their skills? Grimmer. Because now remember, what a wing back has to do, they have to cover the whole pitch the most. They've got to be the fittest and the fastest. They've got to be up the front when being up front matters, and they've got to be at the back supporting when they need to be at the back. Okay. What has Grimmer got as a plus and a minus, do you think? Or do you think he just doesn't have the... I mean...
I just don't think he's that fantastic at football. He's not bad. Don't get me wrong, he's not bad, but I don't think he's, quite as... I think his stamina and all that sort of thing is fine. His pace isn't horrendous. But we've always said his defending can be a bit suspect, and maybe his crossing's not fantastic. We rarely score from we don't score from a Grimmer cross as a thing.
You see, I would say where Obita lacks is if we watched him yesterday, when he was racing forward for the ball, he fumbled it.
To dribbling.
He couldn't. The ball came to him, and so often it went out for a corner. For a goal kick, or so often it'd go out for a throw-in. All the time, the ball had come to him and he'd fumble it at his feet. He couldn't control the ball. And that's massive. You need somebody that can take the ball out of the air and control it.
That's just a basic level of football, is that you should be able to control the ball that pretty much comes from anywhere.
But he's a fullback, not a wing back. He can tackle, he can get back there and get his foot in, but he doesn't have the full quality of a centre of a wing back. He's not good enough. If Ainsworth wants to play with those 3 at the back, and he wants to play wing backs, Hanlon needs help up the front. And never did he have Grimmer up there with him, and never did Obita control the ball to get Hanlon the ball. It did not work. That system was crap. And Wheeler and Thompson, Wheeler in particular, was always left with too much space to cover, and therefore he always looked like a headless chicken. We've got the 2 wrong players. Apart from Stockdale, who I would replace, but I would play a back 4 now. If you want to play back 3, Ainsworth, you're going to have to change Grimmer or Obita and buy wing backs, not fullbacks.
If he wants to play that system, you think that's the best system to go forward. Personally, I think in your lower leagues, it's less likely that system works.
Yeah. And in the end, Wycombe yesterday played a 3-4-2-1. And then he changed it and brought on Vokes and turned it into and took off Jacobson and brought Obita back, and he changed it and turned it into a very strange system. And I think he sort of tried a 4-3-3, I think, but whatever. The three at the back using Grimmer and Obita as wing backs does not work, because I don't think they're good enough. Okay, do we give that a miss now, or shall we talk about loans, or leave that one till next week? Because it's not coming into play for another year, but I'm quite happy to discuss the rule changes. Well,
I mean, quite simply, the rule changes are that you can only have a maximum number of players going out and coming in.
Only to other countries, and then they're changing the rules with the FA. That's FIFA. FA are changing their own rules, and then we got all the discussion on the differences it makes to Wycombe, the differences it makes to Manchester City,
Chelsea.
I think we'll save this one for next week, because there's an awful lot of difference it makes to lower leagues as well as upper leagues. And just to say, Chelsea have had it will be going down to 6, but foreign and under 21s count as well. So we'll come back to that next week. But I think the fun one is Danny Drinkwater, who is on loan as a 31-year-old to Reading. I think he won't be on loan shortly. I think he might be losing his job. We shall see. Okay, we talk about loaned players next week, because it does make a really big difference, and it is more interesting than that sounds. Kieran, update me on what's going on news-wise.
Well, the news today, we have Liverpool have signed Luis Diaz from Porto for £38 million with potential £12 million bonuses. I'm assuming that means number of appearances and goals and assists and all that sort of schnaz. He's a left winger / could be a forward. So he's evidently there to either provide competition for Mane to start playing as he did a couple of years ago, or to replace him potentially. With Mane's contract up in 18 months' time, he could well be on his way, as well as Firmino, but Firmino's already got his replacement. He's got Jota already there. A bit sad to see these players go, because obviously the Salah, Mane and Firmino trio were, it's the best trio we've probably ever had.
Got to replace things, is it?
But it is about time that we do look to the future, and Klopp is just starting to create his team for Stevie to take over in a couple of years' time.
And old Origi and Minamino look like they could be off. Yeah,
Klopp isn't too fussed anymore, it seems.
We've got. He's not good enough.
I mean, we've gotten through the silly little League Cup games that Klopp and Minamino and Origi would normally play in, and we don't have any of those anymore. So they will. There's not a huge use for them at this moment in time. Van der Beek looks to be joining Everton. He's finally getting out of United. Thank goodness. Bless him. And we have Mason Greenwood. Potentially, allegations of him attacking his girlfriend, in which there was photos and audio put on social media. Of course, don't want to say whether it definitely did happen or didn't happen. The consensus is that it definitely did, and it does sound like it did. So it looks like Mason Greenwood's career doesn't really matter what his career does, but his career has ended. And quite honestly, just hope that the girl gets the help and all that sort of thing that she needs, because that's the most important thing in this. It's not about him, because it sounds like he's been an absolute mong.
That's not proved yet, but
it's not proved yet. And the police have said that they're doing all their investigations, all that sort of thing. But it doesn't look like a good situation in any way, shape, or form. So that's more football. It seems as though there's a lot of footballers recently going off to prison. I don't know what's happened.
No.
They just I don't know whether they're just getting exposed more or something. Good that they're getting exposed because flipping out, some of the things they're doing are completely horrendous.
Rob, Barcelona are now close to an agreement over Aubameyang loan to the end of the season. I believe Anthony Barry has held positive talks with Everton to be
Anthony Barry.
Yeah, he's for assistant coach there.
Oh yes, because of course, Mr. Frank Lampard looks to be back in the Premier League as Everton manager.
So this guy looks like he could be helping. Newcastle have agreed a deal for Lyon midfielder Bruno Guimaraes.
But not really sure. But apparently a lot of clubs were looking. Yeah. Let's hope he's not the same as Joe Linton, or the same as Joe Linton turned out to be. Not that it was particularly Joe Linton's fault, as we mentioned quite recently.
Yeah, that he was played out of position.
Another Newcastle signing, Dan Burn for Brighton. They've agreed a deal.
They've got it, have they?
13 million.
They've tried twice. They've been turned down twice.
It seems it's a very odd one because I in the Brighton team, I do really like Burn. I think he's really good. But I can imagine he might be one of these players who may not be so good at another club. And he plays in Brighton play a back three, don't they? And
you're right. They've agreed 13 million.
Yeah, and he plays on the left of the back three. And he's always looked really, really good for Brighton. So it does surprise me that he's gone to Newcastle, but I'm assuming they're paying him quite a lot. So
yeah. And Bordeaux interested in loan move for Manchester United's Phil Jones. I'm
he
sure
might as well.
And that's going to change our lives. So I think maybe with that, Arsenal pushing to sign Calvert-Lewin. Do you think that one will happen?
Not this window. It may well happen in the summer, but I'm not sure that is particularly who Arsenal needs. It might be, actually. I don't know whether he really fits their Odegaard, Saka, and Smith Rowe kind of trio in behind him. I'm not really sure it works, but it may well do. As was mentioned last week, number 9s are going out of fashion slightly, aren't they?
They are going out of fashion. Traore off to Barcelona on is it a loan deal, I think, and it's it's very, very low wages. What that means, anybody's guess. I mean, what they consider a low wages, I'm not quite sure.
Probably more than Mum earns in a year. Still.
I think so. I can't see any, but there'll be a possible 25 million in the summer move, I think. And very funny player. I don't know whether we'll miss him or not.
Well, he's not been very good recently. So why Barcelona wants to sign, I don't really know.
It's funny. He wants to go to Barcelona because, well, isn't that where he comes from?
He is Spanish, isn't he? Yes, you are right.
It's like going home for him, I believe. I think I'm sure I've got that in my head
you are right.
Is where he comes from. So he's looking forward to going home, basically, which is where he wants to finish.
The entertaining thing is that because Barcelona have Braithwaite as well. I don't know if you know who he is, but they now have Braithwaite and Traore, who 2 or 3 years ago were both playing for Middlesbrough, and now they're both Barcelona's attacking strike force. How much they've fallen!
Oh yes. And what about? We'll make this the last one. What the flip is happening to? Look at this now. I can't remember. Lingard.
Well, if he's going coming or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought if he was going, it would have already happened.
I know I think they're talking to Newcastle, as is everybody else. I think they've told they will do a deal, United, with Newcastle for a loan fee of 2.5 million plus coverage of wages, with a bonus deal at the end. I mean, all this money is just absolutely loopy. I mean, isn't that the problem with that Wally up front for Manchester United, who never played?
Martial.
He was on £250,000 a week wages and never played football. And of course, the team he goes to has to pay that.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
So even when he gets loaned, they end up with that bill, and United will no longer have to pay it. That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, they're paying £250,000 a week for a player that never plays. Crazy. What a strange. Wouldn't it be nice to see Manchester United go down next season?
I mean, Man United are weird. Just a weird group of people, quite honestly. Not a football club at this point.
And so on all these loan deals, we'll see how that sort of pans out next week. So, and just to say, we will go out now to a tune. We'll finish with a different tune. This is a piece of music that was written back in July last year, and the group are called Cosmic. The album is called The Sun or the Moon. This track is called Twisted Kama Sutra, and I love this stuff. This is they're from the debut album from this lot. They're French, German, should I say? I think they're German. I should know all this, shouldn't I? Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's psychedelic krautrock, space lounge group, sort of, like picked up bits of Can, Kraftwerk, Pink Floyd, Radiohead, all that sort of stuff, all bunged into a big bowl and stirred. And so we leave, as long as they play it, I might add, depending on copyright, they have to agree, you see. This is, I hope they agree. If they do, this is Twisted Kama Sutra by the band Cosmic. Kieran, say goodbye.
Bye.
And I'll say goodbye.